Hey guys, back again with another video about the Hori Fighting Commander Octa. So, I'm going to say good news, not great news necessarily, but you're going to notice a couple of improvements in this video. So, if you look at the screen now, you're going to notice that the version of the firmware on the controller is updated. What's interesting is the app is also updated. You can't tell that right this moment from the video, but in a moment you'll see the version number is different for the software as well. But basically, an update did hit the Microsoft Store, and I assume the Xbox Store as well, that allows you to update the firmware of the controller through the app itself, which was previously not possible. So that's one good change first. But aside from that, you can also sort of remap the buttons. They unfortunately fixed a problem without really entirely fixing what was really wrong with the app, but I'm going to get into that in a moment. So first off, you're going to see that the firmware on the controller is version 4.0.9. And going into this controller, first we're going to go into the default mapping. I reset all these just for the sake of the video. And then we're going to see how basically that is, the default mapping that it came with. Now what we're going to do is going to the second profile. We're going to once again try to map the controller as though it was a regular Xbox controller, with the exception being that the two extra face buttons are going to be the stick presses. So what you're going to notice is when I go into button mapping, unfortunately, it still once again is going to hide all those extra buttons. And that's sort of where the problem comes in, but what I'm going to first show you is that the button mapping does work properly for the buttons you can see. So whenever I switch these, you're going to notice that I am able to switch these to what they need to be. And then whenever I go back, you're going to notice that everything is reflected there, right? There's a problem though. On the old version of the app, even though it was hiding those other face buttons and whatnot that you can't seem to remap, it would allow you to swap some of the functions of the other buttons you could see and remap to those buttons, even if it wasn't the most intuitive thing. Not that it would have worked entirely anyway, because the thing was so broken. But the problem now is, if I were to assign any of these other buttons to like a separate button, like whether it's X, Y, A, or B, what you're going to notice now is that, for example, let's say that I wanted to put A right here. Whenever we go back, well, first off, A still works, so that's a sign that it's still mapped as A. But you see how it didn't change A to RT this time to compensate for that or anything? So now, even though they did fix the app so that you can get a basic Xbox layout going, unfortunately, you still really can't fully remap the controller. And in fact, it doesn't seem like you can remap the X, Y, A, and B buttons anymore anyway. Which again, is kind of a bummer. I still hope they do additional fixes to this app to get this working. But at the very least, we can now get an Xbox layout. So I mean, in that sense, I am going to, kind of put the controller through its paces. I may not make a review for it necessarily in video form, but I'll probably at least update my my review on Amazon and also the app review. Even though the app is still not perfect, it is better, and it's kind of doing what I wanted to, with the exception of the fact I still can't do the Saturn-style layout for Symphony of the Night with this app. I'll still have to rely on button mapping within the game to do that. So that's the one downer. You still can't really touch those X, Y, A, and B buttons. Not even just intuitively, you can't touch them at all now. So kind of a bummer. But yeah, in either case, there is an update. So just wanted to let you guys know, and hopefully you guys can get some use out of this controller now. Thanks.